How does it make me feel? Oh yes, everything is unfair. And boundaries is a form of love. If you're burned out, tired, falling behind in your work, angry and pissed off, or even have this constant feeling of that's not fair and being upset over it but not doing anything about it, chances are that you may have a little issue that we call boundaries. It may be time to set up some boundaries in your life. I used to be scared of that word. So this video was requested after I shared my grandma femininity video linked here and talked about how one of my friends is super bubbly and friendly and happy. We have very similar personalities and struggles with setting boundaries, but most quite recently started to set boundaries and has seen this amazing shift in her life. So I had some people request this video, and boundaries and practicing them and setting them and being like, don't cross my boundaries. That's something that I'm actually working on right now. And so there's some things that I found helpful. And so I want to share them with you. And I also want to share that I've learned that women who are the most irresistibly attractive, mind, body, spirit, soul, all of it, tend to have pretty strong boundaries. And not just women, but also men too, just people in general. Those that have strong boundaries tend to also have a very strong sense of self and self-confidence, thus making them really attractive and pretty successful in the things that they do. So, if you want to be like that, then this is probably the first step and we can take that journey together. Okie dokie, let's get into it. My mom's a mental health counselor. She would always talk to us about boundaries while we were growing up, and I hated it. I hated it because I felt like boundaries were so scary. I didn't want to enforce my boundaries with anybody. I didn't want to have to tell anybody that what they were doing I didn't like because they would get mad at me, and that was the scariest thing for me. So I thought boundaries were like these big, scary, monster of a task to set your boundary, because if someone said no, then that was the end of the world. And if they didn't like what you had to say about them, they would get mad at you and take it out on you. And to me, it just didn't feel like it was worth it. So I always wanted to shrink myself and just be very nice and be a people pleaser and just move my own needs out of the way so they can get their own stuff done and be happy. I always felt like I was happier when other people were happy, even if it meant self-denial. But the truth is that led to an extreme case of burnout. I realized I was living my life for other people's expectations, trying to do the whole traditional, go to school, graduate, have your person you're dating, get engaged, marry them, have babies, buy a house, have a 9-to-5 job that looks very successful on paper. By doing that, I'm taking full responsibility. I ended up getting extremely burned out in work, in my relationships, and I had to take an extreme break. I quit everything. I dropped my lease, I dropped my job, I paused the relationship, and I went back home with my parents and had to rebuild and heal and learn what I wanted out of life apart from other people's expectations. Not just, oh, she has to get straight A's or else her parents are gonna be mad, or she should get this job because all her peers are gonna be impressed. And not saying my life choices were bad or completely against what I wanted, but I had too much internal pressure from others that I was allowing to get into my spirit and my soul versus doing it completely out of, or mainly out of a joy for life and living and a curiosity. Living that way, harboring all the resentment from others, constantly feeling it's not fair that my brother gets more of this or more of that, or it's unfair that my partner talks to me that way, it's unfair that my boss always messages me that. When you walk around harboring those things without ever expressing them and setting the boundaries, and if you keep tolerating them, that hurts your spirit and that hurts your confidence. And it could even hurt physically. Something that prolonged stress does is it can send your body into fight or flight mode, adrenal fatigue, and in my case, an autoimmune disease. Basically, my hair was falling out. I had extremely bad cystic acne all over my cheeks, very painful. My weight was fluctuating and I was definitely not myself. So that, my friends, is why I'm talking about this topic today. Boundaries. I'm definitely no expert, but like I said, I thought boundaries were these big, scary things. Like I thought I would respectfully pass away if I set a boundary and they said no and I lost my job. Or they said no and they became resentful against me. Or if they said no and they made me work anyways. I just thought there was not life after somebody rejecting my boundary. And now I'm here to tell you guys that's not true. The devil's a liar, and that was a lie. So if you're scared of setting boundaries like I was, and kind of still am, let's be real. I'm not here to lie to y'all. We're in it together. I found this beautiful illustration. Miss Editor, please pop it up here and add the username of where I found this from on Instagram so you guys can go like and share and save this post. It basically shows boundaries as a flower wall. One person is setting the boundaries and the other person is saying, wow, your boundaries are so beautiful, and respecting those boundaries and being thankful for the boundaries. And so that's when it occurred to me is that boundaries is a form of love for yourself, self-love, but then also for the other people in your life. Setting boundaries is the fastest way to get somebody to respect you, and honestly may make them irresistibly attracted to you. And third, it's an amazing gift to give somebody that you love. Let's think about this for a second. So let's say you have a boyfriend and your boyfriend loves to do nice things for you, right? Say he's always like driving you around, maybe bringing you flowers, helping you move things, filling up your gas tank, all those really nice things, and you're super appreciative. But then say your boyfriend starts getting busier at work and still tries to do these things for you, right? And eventually he starts getting burned out. And eventually he's starting to put off work or his gym time or his self time to keep doing these things for you. What happens is he'll start to grow resentful, and you don't know anything. You don't know what's happening. But if he doesn't express it to you, if he doesn't express his boundary to you, then that actually might lead to some conflict in the relationship. You start thinking like, oh, like I have to take her these flowers, I have to fill up her gas tank, I have to help her move, I have to help her with this, and it becomes more of a burden. But if your boyfriend has pretty solid boundaries, then your boyfriend may let you know, hey girlfriend, I love doing these nice things for you, but I can't come visit you every single day anymore because my job is getting extremely demanding. I'm an accountant and it's tax season. I'm so busy, so I don't have as much time to give you. That is setting a boundary. And as a result, he ends up working late at work and you find your own thing to do in the evening time. And if you respect his boundary, then you give him the time and space to do that. And once tax season is over, then he's gonna come back to you. Maybe he'll take some time to replenish and refresh himself, hopefully. But when he comes back, he'll be back to doing the things that he enjoys by showing you love in a way that he enjoys showing it to you. But it doesn't become a burden because he set a boundary with you and with himself, and he expressed his boundary to you in a loving way. And so now you know. So it's like, what situation would you rather have? A boyfriend who continues to do these nice things for you, and even though it's like stressing him and drowning him and making him drop other important areas of his life, but he's still doing these nice things. Would you want that boyfriend who may be growing resentful towards you? Or would you want a boyfriend who's like, you know what, I can't afford to be giving you flowers and all this stuff anymore, at least for this season, because I'm trying to pay off debt or something, and explains that boundary to you and then honors that boundary and then comes back even stronger than before. So that's the beauty of boundaries. So if you're somebody who doesn't really set your boundaries, know that it can potentially hurt your relationships and hurt yourself in the long run. I learned this really important lesson like 2 days ago. No, I just think it's funny because literally I have been historically the worst at setting boundaries, but probably like a year or two, maybe a year ago is when I really started to set them at work and with clients and like career, and then now starting to set them with like relationships and then maybe family eventually. Like it takes a lot of time and it's kind of scary when it's brand new, but you are in a good place right now starting to learn about it. And I'll try to share some books at the end of this too that can help you. So I'm gonna share 3 simple steps that you can start implementing today when it comes to building a little boundary flower wall. Okay, it's like this, boundaries. We're gonna build our little boundary flower wall with these little flowers. I think they're flowers. So number 1 is to find out what is stressing you out. That could be something like anything that makes you angry that somebody else is doing. And it's funny because, well, maybe not funny, kind of just crazy and sad. But I personally used to think like, I don't get angry. Like I never feel angry. And so the therapist that I was talking to said, well, do you ever feel like anything is unfair? I was like, oh yes, everything is unfair. My clients call me at all hours of the night. My boss is always trying to give me extra work. I always give very expensive gifts as presents and nobody ever gives me presents. Like all these things that are unfair. And she said, well, that could be something that's making you angry. So I have some examples here of things that could be unfair or make you angry. For example, your partner always leaves dirty dishes in the sink. My boss just piles work on me and doesn't stop. And he doesn't even have the decency to tell me what is priority. My siblings always get the best of what my parents have and I'm left with scraps. My clients call me all hours of the day and expect me to respond right away. So these are examples of boundaries that may be crossed. Because even if you don't express your boundaries, you still have like within your heart and your spirit and your soul, a sense of right and wrong, of what's right or wrong for you. And your intuition will usually let you know. So for the example of your boss always piling extra work on you, you now have an opportunity to respond differently. So this leads us into the next point. So number 2 is to take responsibility internally. So a lot of times you may be blaming other people like your boss, your boyfriend, your parents, your siblings, your roommate for hurting your feelings or for crossing your boundaries. But if you never expressed your boundaries to them, if you never said no to them, if you never told them to stop doing that, if they didn't listen to all of those and you're still hanging out with them, not even making an effort to change, then that means the responsibility is probably on you to express your needs or to remove yourself. And I highly recommend expressing your needs first before removing yourself because somebody may not even know what is hurting your feelings. I always like to give people the benefit of the doubt. And when it comes to my boundaries, like if I haven't expressed them, then I try to express them. And then I try to see it from their perspective and their point of view. And 2 people aren't perfect, and so they may mess up, but that doesn't mean you have to respond to it. So now you have some tools. So step number 2 is replace what you used to do now with what you want to do. So by teaching people how to treat you, again, this is a form of love. So for example, if your spouse keeps leaving dirty dishes in the sink and never cleans them up and washes them, instead of just getting mad and like being like, you're so dirty, you're a pig, like you need to wash your dishes because that's freaking gross, like you. So instead of blaming, then what you want to practice is taking responsibility and thinking, okay, how does it make me feel? I feel overwhelmed when there's a lot of dirty dishes in the sink. And then you want to look at your need. What do you need? I need a clean sink. And now how can you express in a loving way to your partner how to help you meet this need? Because to meet your needs, you could wash them yourself, but it may like make you feel disregarded when the dishes aren't washed. And he may not even know that. So the way you express it to him is like, hey, loving husband, I want to let you into my heart real quick. When I see dishes piled up in the sink for more than 24 hours, it makes me feel anxious and overwhelmed. It's hard for me to focus on my work. And so I was wondering, could you please make an effort to wash your dishes at the end of the day before you go to sleep? That would really help. So you see, when you come to him, you're taking full responsibility for your feelings because another woman may not even care that there's a pile of nasty dishes in the sink, but you do, and it's affecting you a certain way. So you're taking responsibility for your feelings, and then you're expressing your need to him in a loving way versus in like a demeaning way or in a way of blame. You can use the same framework when setting boundaries with other people. If it's hard for you to verbally express your boundaries and express your needs, I highly recommend this book called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. It'll be linked in the description box below, and You can put it up here, Miss Editor, pretty please. But it basically gives you a framework on how to talk about those kinds of things. That's how you verbally set a boundary, but let's give another example. So let's say you and your partner have these long emotional arguments that go in circles. This can be your partner, this could be one of your parents, this could be a sibling, could be your roommate. But say you have these emotional arguments that just go in circles, and by the end of it, you're exhausted and you guys have no resolution. And you don't like it. So you may set a boundary with your partner or your parent, or really anytime any argument gets this heated. You may set a boundary to only talk when you both are speaking in love. And if it starts to go in circles or gets unproductive, you're going to take some time apart. So this is when you would remove yourself. So if it's getting really heated and bad and it's exhausted and you both have work in the morning and it's super late at night, you may be like, okay, let's put a pin in this. I'm pissed off right now. I'm so pissed. But let's put a pin in this and let's just talk about it tomorrow. I don't want to get there. And the thing is that it may be really hard to walk away from that in the moment, especially because you already have a habit of doing this. But if you start practicing it, then it may get better and better. And then now, as time goes on and you get better at it, the moment either one of you starts to feel like this is becoming unproductive, I'm not speaking in love, we're like name calling, I'm like being sarcastic, when you know I'm crying, can't stop, like whatever it may be, when you notice that, then ooh, there's my boundary. You know what? Let's put a pin in this. Let's talk about this when we cool off. I'm gonna go do my own thing, okay? Another example that I can really relate to is a boss who's calling you after hours, giving you more tasks. Bruh, like that boss needs to have boundaries with himself. But if you happen to be in that situation, then there are some ways that you can deal with it. You can tell him to stop in a loving way. That's not going to get you fired and still maintain your respect. Say he sends you a message at 8 p.m. at night being like, hey, can you actually submit these reports for me? They're due like 8 a.m. in the morning. But technically within your contract, you stop working at 5. One thing you can tell him in a loving way, like, hi, I'm actually off the clock right now, but I can try to get to that in the morning. Right? That's one way to do it. Another way is by saying, hey, I'm off the clock right now, but I get back on at 8 a.m. I was going to work on project A, but what has the highest priority because I only have enough time for one of these. And you make him choose. Another way, which I don't recommend because it's always nice to tell people something first, but another way is just not even respond during work hours. And eventually they'll learn to not text you because you're not even gonna respond anyways. If they keep doing it after that, then you may want to sit down with them and say like, hey, my contract says that my hours end at 5. I notice you keep sending stuff after hours for me to work on. There's times that I've worked on it, but I can no longer do that anymore. I don't have the time to do that. If you want more hours from me, then I'm happy to discuss increasing my pay to match the amount of hours that I'm working. And something like that. And then you guys can have a discussion from there. But if you're scared of having conversations, I highly recommend checking out the book that I mentioned, Nonviolent Communication. Or if your discussions always like piss people off, then you may be a little harsh in how you are sharing what you have to say. As we mature, it's all about adding new skills. And when it comes to communication, there are so many different communication skills to basically get what we need or what we want or create the life and the types of relationships that we want. Trust me, I do know some industries are really hard to work in when it comes to boundaries. I used to work in Hollywood, y'all. We're talking like hours upon hours of like 24/7 like media cycles and all of that. And there's always someone who can replace your job. Amazing experience, but bruh, it was hard. And then setting boundaries with execs and celebrities, it's kind of intimidating sometimes. So it's okay. It's okay if you feel intimidated, but you want to speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. I got some hot cocoa. It's been raining all day, and now the sun is coming out. Yay! I'm kind of cracking myself talking about boundaries because I'm like all smiling and happy now, talking about them all clear. But when it comes to actually setting them, I'm like crying and like, and I, please don't message me after work. Wait, we gotta start somewhere. Okay, just catch me in like about 6 months to a year. I'm gonna be a boundary queen. One of the most important types of boundaries are the boundaries that you have with self, with Becca, with you. It's hardest to regulate these boundaries with ourselves, and it's actually hard to catch them in the moment. I have a journal, which I'll talk about in a moment, to help you do this, but an example of a boundary with yourself that you might have is you may be addicted to your phone. You may be taking your phone to the toilet and looking at Instagram on the toilet. You may be looking at Instagram while you're at stoplights. During any moment that you're bored, you are scrolling on TikTok or trying to listen to YouTube videos or something like that. And realizing that's making you grumpy. And when you don't have your phone, you're upset. And that's a sign you may need to set a boundary to protect your mental health and to protect your peace by doing a digital detox, or by deciding to get off your phone at 5 p.m. or by deleting your social media apps on the weekends so you can stay more present with your friends and family. Another common boundary to set with yourself is your self-talk. And it's crazy because nobody else hears it except for you, but it has a very direct impact on what your life looks like outwardly. Are you extremely critical of yourself? Judgmental when you pass a mirror? Do you see your flaws first? Do you create extremely big tasks and long to-do lists, and then when you don't complete them, you like beat yourself up? That is not good for your nervous system, and you're not treating yourself like a friend. And so you're not going to have that enjoyable of a life. And the thing is, when you're very judgmental with yourself, there's a high likelihood that you also do the same with others. That's how you know bullies are insecure. If someone's going around being judgmental and gossiping and talking trash, then that means that they do the same to themselves. That's how they talk to themselves. If somebody is like this constant like liar and lying and cheating all the time, it's without a doubt that they do that to themselves. That's why it's important, if you're watching this video, and a message to myself is to watch how you treat yourself and set boundaries with yourself. So when it comes to negative self-talk, you want to be able to catch it and start to create a new narrative and replace your old toxic habits with new, healthier habits. If you're not really sure where to start when it comes to setting boundaries with yourself, I created something for you. It's called the Me Date Diary, and it's essentially a collection of the 20 best, I'm talking elite, immaculate journal prompts that I've used over the last 2 years or so that helped me go from anxious, depressed, sickly, not very healthy, to now more vibrant, excited, a 6-figure business, having definite of purpose, and really connecting to my inner light and really feeling closer to who God created me to be. I always share these journal prompts with my family and friends, but I decided to put them all together in a book so you guys can use it and start to journal and feel better. It's called the Me Date Diary because the idea is to create a safe, special place for yourself, like light a candle, block off your schedule, have a date with yourself, and fill out this journal. Connect to your intuition and really thoughtfully fill it out. Now, once you're done with all the journal prompts, you're going to basically have a book that's full of all these amazing resources as to what lights you up and helps you to be the most like powerful, feminine, like abundant, magnetic version of yourself. Not only that, but you're also going to have a step-by-step guide on how to implement these like life-giving activities into your daily life so that ideally your days look better, your weeks look better, and eventually your years look better. With a lot of these journal prompts, I revisit them whenever I'm feeling low or kind of stuck in a funk or going through some tough times, and it really helps like center me back into like what my main goal and purpose is. So, if you're interested in that, it will be linked in the description box down below. It's the Me Date Diary, and I highly recommend checking it out. The last lesson I want to share on enforcing your boundaries is to get support and keep on learning. So this is an amazing first step. I know me personally, I'm going to start reading books on boundaries. Like books are so epic and amazing. I'm a bookworm. Like literally an author takes their like entire like years of life work of their whatever they studied and they put it into like pages for you to read and finish in like a couple weeks or a month. Like that is just insane. It's the fastest way to get information. So I'm gonna be reading some books. Again, I recommend Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. Literally top 3, one of my favorite books. And then the next way is to practice it. Like practice setting boundaries by communicating in that way of, hey, I feel like this when this happens. Can you help support me by doing X, Y, and Z? Friends, those are my 3 pieces of advice when it comes to creating and setting boundaries in your life. The thing that I've really witnessed are people who set boundaries become like insanely attractive for some reason. And not just like attractive to me, but they are people who are extremely respected. People don't just talk to them like any kind of way. They don't walk all over them, and they're admired because setting boundaries in a loving way is not the most common thing in the world. Usually someone sets their boundary and by the time that they've like had enough and they're like, I'm gonna set this boundary now or I'm leaving this relationship. Or they flip out at work on their boss and then they like do something crazy like quit on the spot and they don't have another job lined up. Or they set a boundary with their family, but they blow up on their family and like, I'm never talking to you again. So the key is to set your boundaries before it gets to that point to do something your future self will thank you for. Alrighty friends, go check out the Me Date Diary link down below and I will see you in the next video. Bye.